Hey guys, I just wanted to give an update on how the progression of learning magic is going. I am on day 4 of experimenting with the style. Prior to this, I haven't really used magic since I think probably like 2017, maybe thereabouts. Anyway, a couple years ago, to the point where the only thing that we really did with magic back then was four-tick every basic essentially, and that's also the reason why I stopped using magic, was because I thought four-ticking is just horseshit. It's not something I believe should be in the game. I would like them to remove it, even though it is kind of a disadvantage to the style for some niche stuff. I understand why they didn't then, because Magic had no other teeth, but especially now, where there's a lot of other interesting tools to play with, I've decided to approach this from a perspective of just doing whatever the fuck I want to do. So starting off with what I did was, I think 4 days ago now, I decided to buy into Magic. I think there's a perfect storm situation going on around the FSOA, which I think is bullshit. I hope that it will sort itself out over the next whatever couple of months. I'm talking about the price, obviously, and the way that the pieces are like in cycles being pushed by basically just trading abuse to keep the values of them high. I get why that happens, but it's still annoying, and the fact that the abysmal fucking drop rates are keeping more of them from coming into the game is also rather annoying. Either way, I bought the individual pieces. I ended up just rage buying them and figured whatever. I had a bunch of money stacked away, and I spent, I think in total, upgrading and complementing my magic gear, I think I spent about 9.5 billion that day. I don't remember how much of that was the fractured staff of Armidale, but obviously that was bulk of the cost. I did end up getting a bunch of other stuff as well. I got myself a Nox staff that I wanted to use for lunging and caromming, just as a weird like niche experimental thing. And I also got a staff of Slisky, because those are reasonably low right now, which I am going to use as my flank switch. I will go through my gear in a little bit more detail soon, but essentially what you see in this row here is just my magic armor. So this one classic armor set that just has Biting for Mobile, Crackling Relentless, and then Impatient Hoarding and Enhanced Devoted. In terms of my weapons, as you can see on the screen here, I have the Noxious Staff with the 2 niche perk switches. One is lunging, because I wanted to play with the Carapac wrist wraps and see if there was an actual interesting use case for that. The other one is caromming, because obviously greater chain, so that I'm able to spread my next ability on more targets. As I'm a big fan of elite dungeons, this is a really good way to clear mobs, to like G-chain into Omni power and just blow up the entire room. My next weapon is a Staff of Slisky, which has A1 P6 and then F4 E1. That would be my flank switch. And then I have the FSOA with my old vanilla variant of perks that I used for ranging to save a little bit of the cost and keep things simple, which is AS4 and then P6E1. The AS4 in this case is probably going to have to be replaced with an A4E2 by the time if they do change the ultimatums perk to actually impact the adrenaline cost of Omni Power, and then P6 will be replaced with P6U4, which is, I think, the only viable combination for that. But I haven't bothered doing this because I don't know when this is going to happen. If a JMod says that they may look into something, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 6 months, I have no idea, so I don't care just yet. I had a bunch of A4s as well, just from previous like fail rolls or whatever, so I'm going to use those until further ado. And since I don't use offhand switches for my like caromming and my flank, I'm focusing on staves primarily. I used my old A4 and planted feet that I had on my range gear previously for my appraisal wand, and just a regular P6E1 for the offhand, so that my duels are more of a utility switch. They have the damage base for concentrated blast, but everything else will be focusing around using the T95 staff as much as I can. My T90 Defender that used to be a planted feet switch was repurposed to just get turtling, so that I can kind of, in case shit panic barricade. I'm probably not going to use that. I just have no idea what to put on the Defender for now. And then my EOF Sargi staff and Armidale Battle staff, and I try to use those depending on where I am in a rotation, where if I have crit bonus going from like Tsunami, then I focus on dumping it with the ABS. Being that it hits 5 different times, it regains adrenaline fairly often. And then when I am out of said crit buff, I start looking towards the G-Staff instead, which costs half as much, but is technically, I think, more damage per tick contra the ABS, which is a channeled ability that takes a while. So that's what I decided to do for gear, and the next screen here is going to be what I'm trying to do rotation-wise. So I haven't really figured out how to structure this, like if I want to place the Tsunami before the Sunshine or if I want to put it after the Sunshine. I haven't really understood which basics to use when, if I really want to form a rotation on relying on crit chances to regain adren, or if I want something that's maybe potentially less optimal but also a little bit more reliable. I am experimenting and I'm doing as much of it as I can on my own because I think this is fun. I'm trying to not ask for help. Obviously, it's impossible to not look at what other people do when I'm PVMing with someone who is using gear like this, but I try to copy as little as I can and just do whatever makes sense to me. So if you're looking at the first rotation here, which is the first thing that I started screwing with when I tried to make this easy on myself, was that I did my Tsunami, I built up to 100%, and I did a Sunshine. I used the concentrated blast to build up adren so that I could, with the adrenaline potion, do the FSOA spec, which cost 50%. Then I used limitless sigil to smoke tendril the first threshold I did, because smoke tendril always crits. So because I have the Tsunami bonus, this will give me back adren for the continuous dump that is to follow. And then I prioritized Asphyxiate, Wild Magic, Omni Power, in that order, mostly because of cooldowns, because I want Asphyxiate and Wild Magic to be ready again, hopefully like at the end of the Sunshine, so I can use them twice. Then I threw in the Omni Power with the perk upgrade thing from the Cape, which is pretty sick. Previously, if I didn't have the upgrade, I wouldn't have used that, because Omni Power was kind of lame. And then I dump all my excess adren into ABS specs with an EOF, and as soon as the crit buff from Tsunami goes out, I switch that EOF to a G-Staff. I incorporate some flanks if it's a flanking angle, and then I try to finish with another set of Asphyxiate and Wild Magic. So that would be the ideal rotation that I'm trying to do most of the time. And it looks something like this in the clip. Now keep in mind that this is a crit rotation, so it will look different times. I'm obviously using a Grim and a Reaver ring so that I can max up my crit bonus, because crit bonus is essentially everything that carries the power of the FSOA. So there will be the Tsunami. Then I'm going into the Sunshine, my Adren pot, Concentrated Blast, and then ABS spec. I didn't need to limitless this time, so I just went straight for the Smoke Tendril. Into the Asphyxiate, Wild Magic, and Omni Power. And then I just dump as much as I can with the ABS spec. In this case, that would be 3 in a row. And I fucked that one up because I put the necklace on too early and G-stuffed, but anyway. Building up a little bit and then going back into Asphyxiate, and hopefully the Wild Magic at the last tick of the Sunshine there, but I missed that by like half a GCD in that clip. The next rotation involves turning stuff around and hoping that the buff from your Tsunami lasts for a longer period inside the Sunshine. So you Sun first, then you Cons Blast and a Drum Pot, then you Tsunami, because of the Insight Fear spell. The Tsunami cost is low enough to be able to do this. Then you go straight into the ABS spec, you Limitless, if needed, Smoke Tendril, and essentially do the same thing that I just did. The difference here is that because you delay the Tsunami into the Sun rotation, then there's probably not going to be a window within the Sunshine where you have to switch to the G-Staff rather than ABS. Now, I think there are actually situations where G-Staff still makes more sense than ABS, but I favor the ABS because it hits 5 times, so the likelihood of that critting and giving me free auto attacks from the FSOA spec and the Dren back is fairly high compared to the one hit from G-Staff. So I like to use that one more. So just dump as many of those as you possibly can and then go to a second Thresh stack and hopefully finish with an Omni Power. If you finish with the Omnipower, or if you put that in the beginning of this somewhere else, doesn't really matter, I think. At least I haven't managed to figure out any way that it would be like crucial to put it somewhere else. I guess if you finish with low adrenaline and you can't use it, that would be kind of a cost. So in that case, it may make more sense to put it in before the ABS specs, but I haven't figured this out yet. I don't think there are that many universal truths when it comes to dynamic rotations like this. This is a little bit like range, but I'm trying to at least structure some kind of basic guidelines of priorities for myself, because I think that's the easiest way to learn something new. Then whether or not those are right, I have no idea. Obviously, if you, as usual, fat disclaimer, if you really want the optimal everything, just go read PVM Encyclopedia, because people like Game Dolph are 10,000 times smarter than I am when it comes to this. And thirdly, and this is kind of an oddball, I don't really know if this is worth it or not, but it's something that I want to experiment with, is that if I get a relentless sunshine, I could start and finish the rotation with an Omnipower. This would be the center line. So what I would do here is I would structure it similarly to how you do a double Godbow rotation in a Death Swiftness, because the cooldown of the Godbow and the Omnipower are the same. They're both 30 seconds. You can put one at the beginning and one at the end. So in that case, I would just start with a Tsunami build, and then if my Sunshine ends up proccing the Relentless perk, I dump the first ability I do into an Omnipower, and then I Rampant follow with the the FSOA spec, and essentially carry on the same way that I did with the previous one. I don't have a video example of this because I refuse to stand at wars and just, spam these until my Sunshine procs. It's too boring. But those are the three main ones that I am trying to work with right now, and they are probably going to be subject to change because I have no idea whether or not I'm on the right track, but this is what I've learned so far in 4 days. Now for the area between Sunshines, some of it is prep, kind of like if there's a natural instinct there on a damage immune phase, or if there's obviously the Tsunami in the case of doing that before the Sunshine and a bunch of other shit, but in terms of like dealing damage between Sunshines, I am a little bit lost. I haven't really figured out which abilities that I'm able to cycle then, and how the timings work out with if I want to do like a thresh stack in between the suns, and I'm mostly improvising according to how the boss looks. I'm planning to try to figure that out. I want to put Detonate in somewhere because I think it's pretty cool. I don't really know. Another thing that I also want to do is I want to start cycling the two different spells. I've been camping inside Fear because I just want the Tsunami reduction always. Since I am doing crit rotations and FSOA builds on everything I can, that's what I'm trying to do. But I also want to learn how to normally stay on the Exsanguinate spell to get higher damage on my basics, and also get access to Rack and Ruin, and then when it's time to do the Tsunami build, switch over to Inside Fear. So that would be a goal for something, but it's not going to come just yet because I want to figure out the abilities before I start adding tricks to everything. But yeah, that's a brief summary of where I am right now. Funny enough, despite it only having been 4 days, I did manage to break one of my personal records that with the previous upload on the channel, the 227 Masuta the Ascended. Obviously, it's a pretty grateful place to use this because it's just two straight power builds separated by enough time to cool down all of the abilities for the prep, so it was a really good fit for using this stuff. It's also a fight that I'm extremely familiar with, having done a ton of ED1, as you know. Next up, I want to try to see what I can do at Solak. I'm working out how to, according to some moderately new fashion melee mage hybrid. I don't really know how that's going to go, but I'm also interested in seeing what I can do with the Ambassador and potentially Terraket if I can be asked to go into Terraket again. I really don't miss doing personal records at that boss with anything else than ranged. I hope this was interesting. This was a pretty requested video, so I figured I would do it right away, even though I don't have that many specific videos and examples of stuff to show everyone. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one, yeah?